It's a bit of a Limerick special today on OTB AM, and why wouldn't it be? What a unbelievable achievement from the team to do 3 in a row, and I'm delighted to say both Aaron Gillane and Nickie Quaid are with us this morning. Nickie, good morning to you. Aaron, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
Morning.
Nickie, when does your club competitions kick back into overdrive?
All this weekend now, where everyone is out this weekend. I think there might even be a few starting tonight towards Saturday, Sunday, so it's back into action straight away again.
Right, no rest for the wicked.
No, but sure, look, it's nice to get back with the club when you've been away for so long. It's nice to get back into that again, and obviously club players are mad to get going as well. They've been waiting for a long time to get started, so it's nice to get started.
Aaron, what were the celebrations like this time? How do they compare and contrast to previous years?
I suppose similar enough to 2018. Been around Limerick there for a while. It's kind of taken away from us in 2020 and 2021, but I suppose we had to be sensible too with COVID. But in saying that, we still enjoyed ourselves. But in my opinion, I'd say this year was definitely the best week we had of it.
It definitely felt in the build-up like the fact that the stadium was going to be a full house made a difference. Like, I know last year obviously there was 40,000 and we were all so grateful for the fact that there was an All-Ireland final and there was fans there and it was a good occasion. And still there was crazy noise being made last year, but this year the stadium was genuinely rocking coming down the final 10 minutes. Did you notice a difference?
I suppose when you're playing, maybe not, no. Maybe when someone gets a big score or a point when it's coming down the home stretch, then you maybe might take a small bit of notice the noise in the crowd. But I suppose what kind of stood out for me, I actually went up to the football there last Sunday, and it's only then I actually realised, Gene, there was the same crowd at our match last week. Like, this is just unreal. So it was only actually the following week I really copped on to the crowd and the amount of people and the level of noise that was actually there.
Have you watched the game back yet?
I watched bits and pieces of it. Yeah, I'm yet to actually sit down and watch the whole thing through, but I'll definitely do it now before the weekend.
And the bits and pieces you were watching back, was it like clips of your own, like the clips from the coaching ticket going, here, listen, you need to improve on this, or well done on that? Was it is it the official analysis? Has that already started?
Basically, yeah. Some people might think it's kind of stupid, like watching back clips once the year is actually over, but I suppose just the routine we got into after every match this year to look back and analyse our own game and see how we get on and see where we can improve. So yeah, that's basically it, to be honest.
Wow, how did you get on?
Grand in bits and pieces and not so great in other pieces, so a few things to work on before we go back next year.
Right, wow, geez, that is hardcore. Nickie, how did you get on? Have you looked back at your bits yet?
Yeah, similar enough, I suppose. I haven't sat down fully kind of by myself and watched the whole thing through, but I have watched highlights and bits and pieces of things, and obviously there's areas that you're happy enough with and there's areas that you're disappointed with, that you want to try and improve, and I suppose that's the only way you can improve and get better going forward to next year, that you have areas that you need to work on and hopefully improve them for when you get going again.
You've obviously got a very different physical perspective in terms of, like, you see the whole pitch. Do you notice the crowds a little bit more then? Like, did you notice the fact that the stadium was entirely full down both sides when you're looking for the runs of, say, Aaron from the corner out to the side, or from the side out to into the middle to find a bit of space? You're like, actually, you know what? There's like, it's hard to see because there's like 40,000 bodies on one side and 40,000 on the other side.
Not necessarily, no, in the middle of the game. It's just more the noise, I suppose, that you do hear. We do notice that when there was scores and things, that it is a bit louder. But sometimes, to be honest with you, it's easier play in a stadium that has people sitting there, because there's just more colour. And often find when the stadium is empty, it can be difficult enough to see, even sometimes to see the ball, depending on, like, if there's grey seats completely all in the background and things like that, it can be more difficult. So sometimes when the stadium is full or there's more people there, it is a bit easier to pick out people or pick out the ball. I find anyway, especially in certain stadiums. It depending on the colour of the seats, if they are empty.
Do you remember much of the game afterwards, or is it actually mainly through watching the video that you kind of remember bits of the game? What's your memory like for it? Because different sports people can remember absolutely every single incident, and then other people are like, what happened in that game again? How did that go?
Yeah, no, I'd be okay. No, yeah, I would remember a lot of it. But that's because physically, I'm not, there's no running around really or anything, so it's more thinking involved for me during the game than anything. So I would remember lots of it. Maybe it's a piece, obviously, that you'd have to see back, and then once you'd see them back, it would kind of trigger, oh yeah, I can remember that now. So I would be okay, really, to remember different bits and pieces of the game. Alright, yeah.
And what bits from that game stick out for you now?
I suppose there's just a few puckouts really that you'll be kind of having in your head. You could see the pictures nearly in your head of what you were trying to do, and you nearly obviously the ones that didn't go well. They're the ones that you can see what I should have probably done, or maybe that's the second after I hit the ball. You realise that wasn't probably the right option, or and then obviously the goals you can see. You can nearly play all of those in your head and where you were and could you have done something different for this or that and things like that. So those are probably the main ones that just stick out. It's nearly the mistakes that you can remember more so than the good parts.
We had David Herity on the show last week, Dickie, and he was complimenting you in your puckouts. He said his own experience is that it's quite often like the TV show Take Me Out, where the lights just start disappearing in front of you, whereas your teammates get marked out of it when you're standing over the puck out. Is that what it's like in an All-Ireland final, especially against a Kilkenny team?
It's hard to know. Like, look, I suppose to be fair, for me and our team, the goalie has a very, very small part to play in it, really. Like, it's all about the lads out the field and the movement that they have and the space that they can create. And, the goalie's part is probably just a very low percentage of that when the boys create the space and they nearly basically kind of force you to, this is where you have to put it because that's where the space is and that's where I'm moving. And the decision is nearly made for you. So it's more down to the lads out the field and how they set up and create their space. More so than actually the goalie. The execution part is probably the easiest part, really, to be honest with you.
Aaron, traditionally forwards on the inside line would have been able to have a little bit of a rest when the ball was down the far end of the field. It doesn't sound like you guys are allowed to rest because you have to try and make the run to create some space. So what's that like? When do you know when to set off on your runs? Is it as soon as the ball goes wide you make your move, or do you wait until Nicky has the ball in his hands and then try and create the separation?
I suppose like different players play different ways. I suppose myself, like I've got used to playing with, I suppose, Diarmid now, and it's just ideal that he's in the half-back line with Partyswell and with Limerick. So like I've came to understand his game very well, so I know basically what he's going to do with the ball straight away. So that definitely benefits me in when to hold my run and when to run. I'd like to think sometimes it maybe buys you a yard or two. But then even over the last couple of years, just getting to know the likes of Deck's game, Dan when he's halfback, Kyle when he's halfback, it's just understanding them and knowing what their preference is, and then I suppose relaying to them what your preference of ball in and all this. So just about working together, really, getting a good understanding of each other.
Is there a common theme in there somewhere, Aaron? Like, is there something that Diarmid and Kyle and Declan all like you to do as an inside forward?
I suppose just keep moving, to be honest. I suppose try and make the play as easy as possible for them, just be an option and just be an outlet for them. And like if I'm making the run, they're definitely going to put the ball there. So at the end of the day, it's up to me to win it.
The free taking this year has been off the charts in terms of particularly the long range frees. Like when you have that in your team, does that give you comfort as a free taker as well to know that, like, look, or does it also actually kind of inspire you and drive you on to make sure that your level is as high as Burns' level is?
A bit of both, to be honest. We'd have a bit of slagging against each other if one of us missed one, but to be fair to Diarmid, it was very rare this year when he missed one. I think he scored one there in the final, maybe back on his own 45, and like he just can
further, I'd say.
Ball.
Yeah, fella from Hill 16.
No, you just have confidence of him standing over the ball from anywhere, and it's just a great tool to have in any team, I suppose,
Because you came through, obviously, and the frees seemed to help you as a young player to get into teams, and then obviously your game developed further from that. Because like I think if I'm right in saying there were some minor teams you were on, there were other minor teams you weren't. There was an under-21 team you were on and off, and then eventually you started racking up the big scores. How important was it having somebody like him in the club who was completely dead-eye?
I suppose it's nice going into games. Like initially when I started off, I never actually took frees. I actually only started taking frees for the Partyswell senior team when our real free taker Jack Keller got injured, and then Gary Kirby was actually overs at the time, so he asked me would I take him. So I was like, I chance it, sure. But like I knew myself that Diarmid was going to come up as far as the 65, so like I didn't have to worry about it's going to be a tough free for me way out the field. I just had the comfort of knowing Diarmid was always there, and just like you can tell by him, you can just always rely on him. The man just doesn't feel pressure. Just when the ball goes down, it's going one place, and that's just straight over the bar. So as I said, no, fair play to him. He's just unreal with him.
So you essentially become a free taker relatively late, or it's not something that you were always, it wasn't always your role. So how do you get into the habits that free takers always talk about in terms of routine and the repetition that's required to put the ball between the posts?
Simple enough, really. It's not a short answer, but like, you just have to put in the work and put in the practice, you know. I suppose initially when I started taking frees, as I said, Gary Kirby was our club manager, and he was one of the best free takers Limerick ever had. So getting advice off him definitely stood to me. And then like bringing on that part of my game another bit, credit is definitely due to Paul Knock, and just the mindset he gave me and just the knowledge he gave me being able to take frees. So all credit to both them lads.
What sort of advice are we talking?
Can't give away all our secrets here. But no, it just helped me tune in a bit and just get a routine and like focus on the actual free and not focus on the occasion and all that sort of crack. So simple enough, really.
Yeah, just one other question from what you said earlier on, Aaron. You spoke about the fact that you got into a routine of watching games back or doing your video analysis after every game. Was there a particular moment in this season where the video analysis was particularly truthful or harsh and you came away reeling a little bit as players, or are they usually fairly positive experiences from your own perspective?
I suppose collectively as a team there's definitely always things that we definitely be happy with after games, but in saying that there's always stuff to work on, like, you know, and individually as well it's the exact same thing. You know, I might have thought you played relatively well, but there's always going to be something that did kind of annoy you that you could have done better, and that's the thing that's going to stick out, you know. That's the thing you're going to go back on Tuesday and Friday, and that's what you're going to be focusing on and trying to perfect, like, you know. It's almost as if the good things you did in the match goes straight out the window, but just kind of get into a mindset of constantly wanting to improve. So that's just the way we kind of work, I suppose.
And is that kind of your own mentality, or do you sometimes need a coach to tell you this is what you did wrong?
To be fair, like, we do have top class coaches. Like some of the video analysis we do with Shawnee, he breaks it down fairly simple for us, so it's very plain to see. But no, if ever we need advice after like Paul or Angus or Dodge or any of them, so they're always there. So I couldn't fault any of them.
Nicky, you've obviously been around the inter-county scene for a bit longer than Aaron, and you've kind of seen the evolution of this great team. When did you start to realise how great this team could be or was becoming? What was the kind of bit where you're like, ooh, this is different?
I suppose, to be honest with you, back in the 17, you could kind of just see, like, we were, I suppose, working with Paul for whatever it was, the 6 or 8 months at that stage, and so you could kind of see maybe a little change, and we felt that, obviously, we were very disappointed with that loss to Kilkenny down in Nolan Park, but I did kind of feel that maybe just coming into that game there was a little slight change, that things had been picking up and the younger lads into the squad looked like they were feeling a bit more at home. And then 2018, I think probably the league of 2018 down in Salt Hill, for me, was probably a game still that you could go back to, that, you know, we were, I don't know, 8 or 10 points down at half time and we've been stuck in Division 2 or 1B or whatever it was for so many years. To come out on top of that game, it did just feel like just a little change, I suppose, that, yeah, look, we can mix it with the best, and they were obviously All-Ireland champions, and to come out with that 1 point win up there was a huge boost for us. And then I suppose we went on then to be clear in a real, like, after extra time, we went to that free taking competition, and just to get over those few games was probably you know, I think from then it kind of, we really started to believe then that, yeah, look, we can mix it with the best of them, and then to get the first round win against Tip in that 2018 championship was probably similar. So I suppose those maybe 6 weeks from before the Galway game to the Tip game, they were probably really ones that we really believed that, yeah, this is, you know, we can mix it with the top teams at the moment.
Because that's a time of the year where it's difficult to produce your best hurling, that, like, I don't know, I don't want to reach for the cliches, but actually it's the guts and determination that decide a lot of those league games, as opposed to the lovely patterns of play that we see later on in the year when everybody's making those runs. Or actually, were you guys able to implement the style of play that you wanted, even in slightly, you know, the March, April, May weather conditions were like?
I suppose you could maybe just start to see it coming through, like what Paul and John and things wanted us to do. You could just start that to see coming through, and then when you pick up the results, then you just, I suppose, you really start to believe and trust in that process then. But yeah, obviously, like, that time of the year, it is, you know, the weather is poor and the pitches are softer, and it does take a lot of, like, that just hard work and determination and things. And I suppose to get over that line in Salt Hill that day, it was a very windy day and things like that to just scrape over that line with a lot of young lads. I think it might have even been Kyle Hayes that was injured for a lot of that year, and he came on I think maybe that day for his first league game. I think Graham might have been the same, and there's a few lads kind of coming back, and you just felt that the squad is getting stronger now, and we can hopefully push on from here.
Can I ask you about your own game? How does that evolve over that period of time as well? Is that about conversations around puck-out strategy? Because puck-out strategy has been important in hurling basically since Don Logue's era, and maybe even a little bit before that, where they were doing short puck-outs. You guys took it to a completely different level, obviously. But did that evolve as time went on as well? And how did that thinking? Where did that come from?
I suppose, look, you also, like Aaron touched on it there, it's probably down to Sean O'Donnell in particular for me, who's our video analysis, that I could have done a bit of work with him, and he would have just, I suppose, explained, just basically put it out there in pictures for you and to show you the benefits of doing this and doing that and doing something else. And like when you can see it visually then on the camera, there's no hiding place really as such, like that. You can see the benefits of doing this. It serves the team, whether it's long, whether it's short, or whatever it is, and you just get an understanding of that through Sean then and how good he can put that together for you. So I suppose he had a huge impact, I suppose, on me personally, and the work that you can do to visually see the pitch and help with that sort of thing.
And are you trying to hit people as you see them, or are you trying to hit people as they're going to be in a second and a half? Because you've obviously got to take into account their movement. It's a bit like, it seems a little bit like quarterbacking, where you're trying to throw people open. You're trying to hit people open, are you?
Well, look, it obviously depends on the situation, and different teams will throw up different, I suppose, setups to you, and you have to try and work around that. And look, I suppose we have some unbelievable lads in the half forward line that can move, but they can also stand on the puck out and look to, contest the 50-50 and probably come out on top 8 times out of 10 in that. So look, I suppose it's not a set in stone thing. It's something that we see that maybe we can adapt to different opposition and the way the game is going in certain ways as well. So it's not we do this every game and that's just it.
One last question on this: the patience to stand there on All-Ireland final day with the team's level with 5 minutes left to go, and not to rush it. Do you have a routine to calm you down and go, okay, I'm just going to take my full allotted of time here, and I'm going to wait for whatever it is to arrive? Because it definitely felt like you were just calming everything down and making sure that everybody understood, we have control of this, we've got this, don't worry. What's gone through your mind at that stage?
At that stage, a couple of minutes ago, I was probably get the ball as far away as possible. To be fair, for the last 5 or 6 minutes, I think the fact that Kyle and Garrod were playing so well, I just pick up the ball and you instantly just look right where the two boys, which is the best option. I just put down top of them because they were winning probably 80 or 90% of the ball that was going down top of them. So that was probably the thing. And if they're moving, look, you try and put it in front of them. And if they're standing, you try and put it maybe in front of them to their advantage or down top of their head, because you get bodies around the break anyway. I suppose so. Look, the last couple of minutes is more like that. Try and get the ball away from the goals as possible, and hopefully that you can win it and keep it on the other end of the field.
The puck outs is one element of it. Shot stopping is another. Aaron, how good is Nickie at shot stopping? I'm sure you've tried to beat him in training a good few times.
You'd actually leave training some days and you'd go home and your head would be erect and you'd just be annoyed with yourself, because you could be 5 or 6 yards out and your man just pulls a save out and over. And you would be taking, next thing he starts laughing, you're after hitting me in the elbow, you're after hitting me in the knee, can you push into the net or something? He'd just be trying to drive you mad, I suppose, but as the years go on and kind of getting used to it, so it's kind of coming to the fact now it's nearly harder to score against him it's harder to score against him than it is to score.
Yeah, it's I wonder, does that feed into Hegarty's finish as well in the final, Aaron? Just having to pick the postage stamp from that position.
Yeah, look, I suppose we're used to just, it has to go when we're in training, with Nickie and Barry and Dave McCarthy, 3 unbelievable goalies. So we're not going to get anything soft against them. So if it is going to be a goal, it has to be a top class finish. But Garrod's finish in the final was, if there's a word better than top class, I was just standing there for about 30 seconds there, my mouth open in awe. I just couldn't believe it. And especially, to be fair to Owen Murphy, to score against him as another top class goalie. So just an absolute cracker.
What's your go-to method for goal scoring at the moment, Aaron. Like, I mean, the one that we see often is just bouncing in front of the goalkeeper. Obviously, Garo's goal was not that. But what's your go-to method? Do you have like a habit that you fall back on if you get yourself into a goal scoring opportunity?
Definitely not kicking it, anyway.
Yeah, definitely not kicking it. We changed that a few years ago too, and I'm still waiting for one to go in. No, but I suppose I was getting enough slagging off the lads there in the years gone by. Any time I went through one goal, I'd try and hit it into the roof of the net or into the top corner, but they nearly all ended up going over, you know. So I suppose over the last year or two, just kept it simple as possible. If I get a goal, chance just low off the ground into the corner, and they're paying off more than the high ones, thank God.
How hard are they to save, Nicky?
Yeah, very hard. Look, I suppose every inter-county forwards, their striking ability is so good, it's very difficult to save that. And sometimes they're just better off hoping that you get in the way and it just hits off you. More so than because the speed that the ball can go at is very, very quick. So look, in fairness to boys, like you can see every night of training, they're working on it before training starts. See our lads are doing a bit of shooting practice, or they're working for goals, and they have their own mini competitions between themselves. So it comes down to that hard work. I suppose really it doesn't just automatically happen, and I suppose when you continuously put in that hard work, it's just probably ingrained in you, like that. This is where I want to put it, and automatically just happens then for you that you're aiming low into the corners, or you're aiming to the corners straight away, even when you are in the most difficult of situations.
Aaron, the All-Ireland final against the Kilkenny side, who had beaten you in a semi-final, who you had beaten, and who there's a developing rivalry with. Did it matter that it was Kilkenny in the final? Was there anything extra about that?
Not for us, I don't think so. Anyway, maybe the media and the people, like the crowd and the people outside of our circle going to the match, maybe they could have made something of it, but no, not for us. Look, we still focus on what we have to do. Doesn't matter who we're playing. I know it's probably a boring answer, but that's actually the truth. We just focus on ourselves, really. We obviously have a look at the opposition, but don't delve too deep into then we know what we have to do against them. It doesn't matter if that's Kilkenny, Waterford, Tip, anyone really. It doesn't matter.
Did the 3 in a row matter, or did that get spoken about at all at any stage?
During the year, no, definitely hadn't been spoken about. Probably haven't actually had the opportunity to sit down and talk about it since the final as well, to be honest. But it's just a nice feeling knowing that it's there and that it's over and done with. But I suppose all we can do now is kind of park it, go back, give our all with the clubs, enjoy that, and then back again there to start the January.
I suppose you kind of have to approach it that way, because you're in the middle of trying to create even more history. Like, you've created some history, but if you were to rest on your laurels at this stage, or to consider the fact that you've made history, then it becomes too big a thing in your head, and trying to beat that becomes almost less important. Is that like, we can't think about this until it's over, because if we do, then it might end quicker?
No, like, to be fair, like, we thought about it over the last week. Like, we definitely celebrated it over the last week, and I'm sure there'll be times there over the Christmas and we'll sit down and we'll think about it as a great achievement. But like, we're not dwelling on either. Like, if you're going back training there in January and you think, oh, our work here is done, we're only going to be fooling ourselves and we're wasting our own time, So we have a short enough old career, I suppose. So, like, there's no secrets, but like, you want to win as much as you can as long as you're playing. Like, so, like, I suppose we're not going to be settling for 3, so we're just going to keep driving on as much as we can.
Yeah, so Nicky, I'm hearing you're not going to be happy until you've beaten the great Kilkenny team's record and done the full 5, because we all know that they fell short. So it's you guys against Kilkenny for history.
Look, that is, I suppose, like, maybe that'll be something thrown out there, but there's nothing that to do with. No, it wasn't in any of our thinking before last Sunday, and it isn't going to be in any of our thinking moving forward. Obviously, look, it might be a story that media or whatever will try and talk about, but for us, it's just trying to improve ourselves every day, and like Aaron said, get the best out of ourselves, and try and win as much as you can. Like, records and things like that don't really come into it as such. Like, it's just we're trying to compete with ourselves and make sure that we're improving every night, and that we're driving each other on and keeping our standards nice and high. And that's all you can do, I suppose, and to keep driving our own standards, and hopefully then that will, our performances will stay improving.
Anytime we ask any of the Kilkenny lads who'd win in a match between the 07-08 Kilkenny and you guys, they're like, we'd still win. So I'm going to start asking you guys now, because that's only fair. It's your chance to get back. Who'd win? Nicky, you probably played against that team a couple of times. So your current team or the team that won in, say, 07 or 08?
I'd probably say them, yeah. They had some unbelievable hurlers.
You've been practicing this answer, it seems. Aaron, tell us the truth.
Sure. It's so hard to compare. Look, I was lucky enough, like I said, to play against two of those lads. And when I was growing up, then they were heroes of mine. They were people that you'd look up to. Like, and they had, like I said, Gillane, Tommy Walsh, Henry. All these lads were incredible hurlers, and did so many more. They were a joy to watch for me growing up. They were, I suppose, what made you. I remember being in Croke Park in 07, and standing on the hill, and I suppose you were deflated because they had beaten Limerick in the All-Ireland final, but I suppose there was a part of it then that just had to say, look, we're witnessing an unbelievable team here, and it was something that I suppose will stick with me forever.
Aaron, I presume you're going to not say Kilkenny. You'd fancy a crack off that team, right?
To be honest, I can't say I do. I'm already thinking here to myself, imagine if we were playing them, I'd probably run around the field, my hurley out, asking Tommy Walsh or Gillane to sign it or something, so it'd be hard to play against them.
Well, when you do 5, you can come back and tell us the truth on that one. One last one, just Brian Cody, obviously. I think we were talking about it during the week, and he would have come into the changing room after games against Limerick saying that, like, we need Limerick at the top table, and certainly talking about it this week. That seemed to be an inspiration for some of your former colleagues in particular. So when you heard that he was retiring, what did you make of it? Was there anything that you were thinking at that stage, Nicky, that this is like one of the all-time great GA careers, and actually the last match that he's been in charge of was an epic All-Ireland final that we came out the right side on? What was your immediate reaction?
I suppose, look, my first reaction is, what a loss he's going to be to the game. I suppose, like I said, I grew up obviously watching those teams, and I can remember back into '99 when he got involved first, and like to his longevity, see what he's like. He is the Sir Alex Ferguson really of GA. To be fair to me, his record, is second to none, and he'll be just a huge loss to the game, obviously to Kilkenny in particular, but to the game. He'll be an inspiration, I suppose, of every GA player to look up to, and how he carried himself, I suppose, on and off the field, how competitive he was right until the final whistle last Sunday, from his very first game till the last day. And I suppose, look, to have played against him and being in his company a few times has been a privilege and an honour for me. And I suppose I can say it's just so wish him well in his retirement, and he will be a huge loss to the game.
Well, listen, enjoy the club championship season, and thanks a million for making the time to talk to us. It really is an incredible achievement. You are history makers, and I'm sure at some point over the winter you'll get to enjoy the fact that 3 in a row is really rare. Very, 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 very few human beings have ever experienced it. So thanks a million to Aaron, Gillane and Nickie Quaid for joining us this morning. Cheers, lads.
Thanks, lads.